government shutdown 2021. What will happen? Regularly in the United States, there are games with an increase in the limit on the national debt and the temporary suspension of the work of the government. The current president's party seeks to budget as much of the cost as possible. The opposition demands to moderate appetites and satisfy the list of their demands. Every time, horror stories surface about default, economic collapse, budget crisis and other catastrophic consequences. No matter how external observers are worried, no matter how they are frightened by the news, everything always ends well. The opposite would be odd. The real struggle is not over a visible subject of dispute. It will certainly be accepted. Since both sides, Democrats and Republicans, are not ready to break the system and understand this very well. At stake, on the one hand, is the lifetime without an extended limit. The longer, the harder it is for the current party in power. On the other, additional preferences and concessions that the opposition needs. All this is always accompanied by bluffs, beautiful phrases and public play. But real players know perfectly well what issues are being fought for, invisible to most of the public. It is a mistake to think that it all comes down to redirecting financial flows. Very often, the subject of bargaining on the table is responsibility for future problems, the right to a service, repayment of imbalances in previous agreements, and much more. Money matters are just the tip of the iceberg in a complex, controversial conversation. The increase in the limit on the U.S. national debt, as in all previous times and attempts, will be accepted with creak and lamentations. The entire scope of agreements will be known only to specialists and especially close people. At the same time, in serious matters, and here it is precisely such, we are talking about package agreements. For any strikebreaker, any price will be low, since everything that the group does not receive will be taken from him. Therefore, over a long distance, outright fools are quickly translated. And, yes, this trading principle is typical for both corporate and personal problems. After all, so far in the United States there is an internal, and also external main players, consensus on significant points. There is not even a strong confrontation with the industrialists and the Republicans. It is worth noting one of the few points that after the elections, logically, the elite group that supported Trump was not cleaned up. It means they have agreed after all. They agreed here too. Therefore, don't be confused. Make yourself comfortable. The show goes on. Subscribe and like. It will be very fascinating.